Hello again, and welcome to Production Communication. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You have now entered the realm of home improvement, and it is almost impossible to over communicate in the world of home improvement. Um, Case in point, if you had somebody show up at your house and sell you a new deck, the minute they left and they walked away with a $5,000 check in their hand, you would almost immediately wonder, when is the next communication going to show up? When are these guys going to show up? How long is it going to take them? So once the job starts and at the end of day one, they've done some stuff, maybe there's some post stuff, you want to be communicated with. How much longer is it going to take? Are things going the way they're supposed to go? Have you run into any problems? People are just naturally curious about what's going on in their home. In the venue of home improvement in this industry, it is almost impossible to over communicate. So we're going to talk about communications and how to set some realistic expectations. Before we dive in, just a reminder of where we've been. So we have looked at what does it take at the point of sale, how do we prepare, and how do we get organized to make sure that production is going to go off without a hitch. Today, we're going to talk about communication, or in this module, we're going to talk about communication. And then you'll see later, we'll still get into what does it look like to deliver material, manage installers, all the way through the final walkthrough and the closing of the job. So right now, let's focus on what does it mean to communicate. How are we going to communicate with all of the stakeholders? So let's say, first of all, who are the stakeholders? Who is it that needs to be communicated with during the job, before the job, after the job? So for sure, you got to communicate with your vendors and make sure that you've got people coming in, that materials are coming in. If there's a third party, a plumber, finish carpenter, a GC's involved, whatever, painter, you're going to want to make sure that you're communicating with them, right? On a normal basis, day in, day out, there should be a communication cadence with the customer. So what is expected by the customer? How often are you going to communicate with them? What is your normal cadence, right? And maybe this is you're a first-time business owner, a first-time entrepreneur, you really want to set in place, these are my normal processes. This is what we normally do. So 90% of the time, this is how we do it. Sure, there's going to be exceptions from time to time, but this is normally how we do it. So that you can set up with your office manager and with your team, this is what I'm expecting. This is what we normally do. So what is my communication cadence with the customer? How often am I expecting to talk with the customer, and what does that look like? How am I going to keep DAs in the loop, especially while the job is running? And then what is my communication plan with installers? So let's break each one of those down. Let's take a look at the communication cadence with your customer. So there it is. In home improvement, it is almost impossible to over communicate. What is the right way to contact a customer? Is it by phone? Is it by email? Is it by text? Is it by the US mail? Is it by pigeons? I mean, what is the right way? Is it a drive-by? What is the right way to communicate with the customer? And most of the time, it's whatever the customer wants. So you have all these different ways of communicating with people. There's a check mark on the job jacket that says, how does the customer want to be communicated with? Phone, email, text. As a general rule, you're going to want to respect that. Now, you still may, if a customer likes to be phoned, you still might follow up with an email so that everything's in writing. But the reality is, the best way to communicate with a customer is the way that the customer wants to be communicated with. Normally, you're going to start with a job handoff from the DA to the production coordinator. There's going to be an introductory call. So once the DA has sold the job and they pass the job over to the production coordinator, there's an introductory call. Ideally, if the schedules work out, ideally the design associate and the project coordinator are together on speakerphone calling the customer and making this fun and exciting. Hi, my name is Arlen. I'm going to be the project coordinator for your job. I'm here with Bill, who was there with you yesterday and had a chance to meet with you. Bill and I have talked about the job. I'm so looking forward to working with this. I understand the question you had around the steps or around the fireplace and what we're going to do there. Don't worry, we're going to take good care of you. It tells the customer that you've had a chance to talk through it. You know exactly what's going on with the job. You're not expecting the customer to explain to the project coordinator what they've already explained to the design associate. So that way the customer only has to share their story once. Now, there's some scripts that I'm going to share with you. You can use these scripts. You don't have to use these scripts. You can add to them. You can modify them, whatever you want to do. Script number 1 is normally used when the order is placed with the supplier. Script number 2 is normally used when the material is delivered, right? You physically have the material. And script number 3 is normally used the day before the install. But if you need a script 4, 5, and 6, knock yourself out. If you want to adjust the wording in these scripts, these are just a starting point. They are not intended to be the end all be all of the communication scripts, but they're good scripts. A lot of people use them just like they are, but feel free to modify them. So the introductory call, this is normally done within 48 hours of the job being landed, or let's say within 2 days. This is when the ownership shifts from the design associate to the office manager or the project coordinator. And it eliminates white space. It eliminates that dead time, that dead space where the customer just doesn't know what's going on, right? This just continues the great experience that they had in the home. So this is what it might look like. Dear Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, my name is the project coordinator's name, and I'm the project coordinator for Floor Covering International. How's everything going today? Hey, I'm excited to work with you. I just wanted to let you know that I wanted to introduce myself and let you know that I'm the one that's going to be sending information your way. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable. It's my role to make sure that you feel comfortable with the process and that the job gets done the way that you envisioned it. Do you have any questions for me? If you need to reach me, this is how to get in touch with me. So this might be sort of a script that you use on the phone, and then it might be that you follow up with a customer via email or via text just to have this in writing. So this normally happens as an introductory script, right? This is that handoff call between the design associate and the project coordinator. Then there's a script number 1. Normally this is sent when the product order is placed. So it's still, I mean, it might be within a day or two of the job being landed. Again, it's eliminating that white space. It's letting the customer know that the job is moving on. So again, dear Mr. Homeowner, my name is, I'm going to be overseeing your project. I wanted to let you know that we've ordered your product. So you've got some fluff in here. We've ordered your product. And once we have an estimated arrival date, I'll send you a confirmation email. Okay, great. So here you've got, just a basic script. But again, it's eliminating that white space, and it lets the customer know that something is happening. Script number 2. This is normally sent when you've got a confirmation of the material being received, or maybe you've already received the material. This is going to confirm an installation date or a tentative date. So if you're sending this out before you physically have the material and you're banking on the supplier's delivery date, then maybe you're setting a tentative date. This just sets us up as professionals, and it reminds the customer of what needs to be accomplished before the job starts. So for example, dear Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I've got great news. We've received word that your new floors are estimated to arrive on. Assuming the material delivers, we should be installing your floors on such and such a date. This, again, modify this, right? We need you to let us in. We need you to take care of the small knickknacks. Maybe you end up putting together installation instructions for your customers of the things that you want them to do, and you add it here. If you want, attached, you find a copy of our general liability policy and the handout we went over. Please review it. It describes our scope of work and what we need accomplished from you. Again, those might be installation instructions, and we're going to reach out to you with next steps and final confirmation before the installation day. So again, I want you to take these and customize them, but there should be a standard cadence. So when we have an introductory call, this is what we do. When we order the material, this is what we do. When we receive materials, or when we get a confirmation date from the supplier, this is what we do. If you put that standard practice in place, yeah, you can modify these words, but if you put that standard cadence in place, then it eliminates all the guesswork from your office staff of what it is that's going to happen next. All right, script number 3. Maybe this is sent the day just before the job starts, right? It's one final touch point. It confirms the start time. You might even use this as a way of introducing your installers, right? And this for sure you want to confirm via phone or via text to make sure that they got this. In case it lands in somebody's spam email, or they just aren't accustomed to looking at their email, you really, the day before the job, need to have a touch point with the customer to make sure that everything is still on track for the next day. So good morning. Just a friendly reminder about your project. Your installers' names are Now, I've seen some franchisees that go so far as to actually put a picture of the lead installer. I wouldn't bother with all the helpers because the helpers can change, but you might even have a picture of the lead installer that says, this is Samuel, whatever the installer's name is, this is Samuel, and a short 2-sentence bio. Samuel's got 30 years worth of experience in flooring. His favorite floor to do is this, I don't know, whatever, right? Whatever you want to do. Samuel just got a new dog named Ray, ask him about his brand new Husky, whatever, right? So make it a little personal, but I've seen franchise owners use this as a way of introducing their installers by simply having a picture of the lead installer here. The safety of you and your loved ones is our priority. Please make sure that everybody will be present during that anybody that's going to be present is informed. If we need a gate code, questions, whatever, we're going to be there. Now, this one says at 9. Maybe you change that to say we're going to be there between 8 and 10. Whatever, right? Again, this is not meant to be word for word. You have to do this. This is meant to give you a 95% starting point, and then you modify this as you need to. Where are these held? Well, let me bounce out of this for just a second. It's not a big surprise. These are out on floor 1-1. So I'm in the production management systems and tools. And if I scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see there's my customer intro call and 3 email pre-install touch points. So this file that includes those scripts. When they download, they are modifiable. So you should be able to simply take those and modify them the way that you want to. If you want to start from scratch, right? It's fine. I just would encourage you to define, this is what our installation, or this is what our communication cadence is, so that you actually have a process in place. This is what it means to create business processes for your business. All right, so back to where we were. What does it mean to communicate with your design associates? I would highly encourage you to keep design associates out of production. I know that there's some seasoned franchise owners. Rich Ennis allows his design associate to get very involved in production. Some other seasoned franchise owners let their design associates manage production. I would encourage you, especially in the beginning, to keep design associates out of production. Why? 1, the design associate should continue to sell. 2, if there is a problem on a job, it shields the design associate from the raw emotion that the customer may have around a job. The production coordinator is just going to have to learn how to deal with it. And somebody that's been in production before, that has been in construction before, they know that from time to time things go sideways, and the initial reaction from the customer is normally very negative until they work out a solution and figure it out. And a week from now, everything's going to be positive, everything's going to be sweet. But in the meantime, you want to shield the design associate from that raw emotion from the customer so that they can stay positive and that doesn't get in their head. Salespeople, it's all about credibility. It is all about their own confidence in being able to sell what it is that the company is going to deliver. And if they don't have the confidence to be able to sell because something just went sideways on somebody's job, they walk into the next appointment second guessing themselves on whether or not they should really be selling this. So I would highly encourage you to keep design associates out of production and instead let the DA focus on selling. However, you want to inform the design associate of relevant information, right? And keep the communication positive. So let's say you're in Mrs. Smith's home and your installer just broke Mrs. Smith's grandmother's vase. I mean, okay, so this is horrible, right? There's been something that's been damaged. What are we going to do here? All right, so I may call the design associate and say, listen, I just want you to know, in case Mrs. Smith calls you, yes, the installer broke the vase, but we are working on a solution with Mrs. Smith and we will have a solution worked out. Whatever it is, I don't know. I want the DA to be informed, but I want to be able to inform the DA in an objective way and keep the raw emotion out of it. I might even tell them, hey, look, Mrs. Smith is pretty upset about this, but we're going to work it out. Maybe the installer was working in the home and something, they were on the saw and something slipped out of the saw and it shot something back and it broke a window. Okay, so, all right, so now we're having a different discussion. You know what? We broke a window, but it's fine. I've already contacted a window company. They're going to come out next week and put in a new window. We've got a plan in place. No, Mrs. Smith is not happy about the broken window, but we're going to take care of it. Now, a week from now, Mrs. Smith, she's never going to be happy that the window was broken, but she's going to see that we took care of her, right? That everything's going to be fine. I don't want the design associate to get the raw emotion of, you guys are idiots. How did you break a window? Okay, because that just affects their confidence. So I want to have a communication cadence planned out for how am I going to communicate with the design associate and what am I going to communicate with them. But the project coordinator that's the key person with respect to communication. So if something goes wrong on the job site, the customer should be talking with the project coordinator, not with the installer. The project coordinator is there to manage the job. That is their role. That is the number one role for the project coordinator. If this is a shared office manager project coordinator role, then yes, the office manager has other duties. But when they're wearing the project coordinator's hat or the production manager's hat, their number one role is to manage this job. And that means managing it through if something goes wrong. And let's face it, we're doing construction inside people's home. At some point, something's going to go wrong. So we've got to have a communication cadence planned out. How are we going to communicate with one another when this happens? I want to keep communication positive with the design associates. Yes, something happened, but look, this is what we're doing to take care of it. We've got a plan in place. That way they know that it builds their confidence to know that something happened and that we're going to take care of it. With installers, what is my communication plan with the installers? So before the job, I'm going to give them a work order. I'm going to give them the production video. I'm going to confirm the scope and length of the job and confirm the installation day. So this is just getting stuff ready. But during the job, have a plan for communication. How frequent do you want your installer to give you information? How frequent do you want the installer to talk to the production coordinator? Do you want a daily update? Do you want an hourly update? Do you want a midday update? I would argue that daily is probably enough. If you're asking your installer to send you an hourly update, it's too much. Just let them do the work. But have that communication with your customer and set the expectation with your customer that, this job is going to take 4 days and I'm going to give you an update at the end of every day. That way the customer is not looking for an update every hour. The installer should communicate with you first, not with the customer. You should, and when I say you in this context, I mean the production coordinator. So the installer should communicate with the production coordinator, not with the customer. What happens if a job goes sideways? I don't want the installer talking directly with the customer. That's the role of the production coordinator. That is what the production coordinator is there. That person has to control the information flow. Otherwise, the installer might be promising stuff that you can't deliver, or they might be pushing back on stuff that they can't do that you'll take care of. So the worst job I ever did, I put a hole, not me personally, but my installer put a hole in somebody's ceiling. And a hole, it was like a 10-foot diameter hole. They were working in the shower in the upstairs room, in the upstairs bathroom. And when they took the toilet out of the bathroom, they did not cap that line off. Well, the customer went into the adjacent bathroom that night to take a shower, and all the water from the shower ended up coming through that pipe onto the drywall, and it blew a hole into the kitchen. So now there's a 10-foot hole in the kitchen ceiling. All right, so now if that customer talks to the installer doesn't do drywall, right? So the installer might look at the customer and say, well, I don't do that. That's not for me to fix, even though it was the installer's mistake. No, I want that customer talking to the production coordinator. So what ended up happening? That person talked to the production coordinator, happened to be me. I was wearing that hat. So I met with the customer the next day. We put together a plan. We put together a communication plan. I told my installer, I want you to stay in the bathroom and I want you to finish the job up there. You focus on that. I'm going to focus on getting the kitchen fixed. And then on the back end, we work out the cost between me and the installer on the back end of how we're going to pay for all this. A week later, the bathroom was done. It looked fabulous. The kitchen was fixed. It looked fabulous. And that customer was walking me around the neighborhood, introducing me to his neighbor, saying, yeah, this is the guy that screwed everything up, but took care of it in a week. If you ever need home improvement work done, this is the guy you got to talk to. It's not that things will never go bad. Things will go bad, but if you or your project coordinator control the communication, control the situation, take some of the emotion out of it, leave the DA out of it, you can manage the situation and get it taken care of. there's really nothing. I mean, this is home improvement. It's not rocket science that we're doing here. We're not doing brain surgery. Anything that happens on a job, you can deal with. If you stay positive, you work through it, you have a communication plan with your DA, with your installers, with your customers, it's fine. Everything's going to work out. So just like before, all the tools that we looked at. So we looked at the scripts, and those scripts, as I showed you a moment ago, those scripts are in the same Floor 1.1 folder under the production management system and tools, customer intro script, and 3 email pre-install touch points. Those scripts are there. Those are not meant to be, as I said before, those are not meant to be word for word. You have to use these, but they're meant to get you 95% of the way there. It's a starting point if nothing else. Modify them, do whatever you need to do, but I would highly encourage you to have a communication plan in place. This is how I'm going to communicate with my DAs. This is how I'm going to communicate with my installers. This is how we're going to communicate with our customers. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on this Inspired Delivery System.